Okay, so here's an example of a men's issue that you probably never heard of before, and it's an example of the kind of issue that MRAs talk about that you probably won't hear from feminists. In countries where men have higher pension ages and are forced to retire at an older age, working those extra years means they're more likely to die at work. So, just a quick background on the pension age issue and the pension age gap. This is a common MRA issue that we talk about, and basically it's that in many countries, the state pension age or retirement age where someone can qualify for a pension is higher for men than for women. I put this link from Wikipedia down in the description below. It lists different countries and the different pension ages, and you can see that the retirement age for men is higher than women in many countries, even in countries that have a reputation for gender equality, such as Austria. Just so for you understand what this is like in America, Social Security. When someone works and they pay into Social Security, and then when they turn 65 or 67, they get Social Security checks from the government so they can retire. This is basically what that is. And in many countries, men have to work until an older age before they qualify for that pension. Now, the obvious unfairness about that is, well, obvious. But here's something that you may not have thought of before. If men are forced to work until an older age, then it means that men are more likely to be killed at the workplace, especially considering that men are significantly more likely to die at work. It's been recorded for a long time that men are significantly more likely to die at work than women. And this is mostly because men are more likely to do physically dangerous jobs like manual and physical labor. But let's take a look at some statistics from the UK, which currently has a higher pension age for men and women. You can see these are official statistics that say men are 23 times more likely to die from work than women. And in addition, it also shows that the older a worker is, the more likely they are to die. Let's take a look. The report found that men are 23 times more likely to die in the workplace than women. And then, where workers who are 65 and older are 6 times more likely to suffer from a fatal injury. And you can see from the chart here, the older you get, the more likely you are to die at work. Now, note between 60 and 64. That is the gap right now in the UK and many countries where men have to work and women don't. You'll see a lot of countries have a 65 age for men and 60 for women. Those 5 years are years where a lot of workers are at an especially high risk of being killed. So by forcing men to work longer, you're essentially killing many men at work. So this is another example of an area where men are disadvantaged in. And it's also another example of the kind of issue that you probably won't hear feminists talking about, which is why we need a men's rights movement to talk about things like this. It also kind of flies against the notion of male privilege as well. I mean, first of all, just forcing men to work longer is pretty clear discrimination. But also the fact that it's men doing the jobs that are more likely to kill them, and then still being forced to work longer, which is resulting in more men dying at work. Because as you saw in that chart, the older you get, the more likely you are to die. So if you're forced to work to an older age, there are many men who die at work who would have been able to retire sooner if their age was equal to women's. But again, this is not something you really hear anyone talking about. It's the kind of silent and invisible men's issue that goes on every day that people either just accept or don't really think about. I put all the articles and links down in the description below. I also put a link to an article that I wrote about the pension age gap. I'm going to do a longer video on this in the future, but it basically explores the issue that because men have a lower life expectancy, forcing them to retire older significantly cuts the time they have to enjoy in retirement before death. So much so that in many countries, men only have half the time in retirement that women do. That website is Men Are Human, a website where I'm one of the writers on. It's going to be the very last link in the description. Enjoy. Thank you.